In this lecture, we'll take up the prehistoric and historic ideas discussed by Russell in his essay, The Ideas That Have Helped Mankind. We have discussed the introductory part of this essay in the previous lecture. So we move on to the later part of the essay. Now Russell divides the essays in the ideas into two main categories: prehistorical ideas and the historical ideas. The historical ideas, they are further divided into the ideas related to knowledge and technique and the ideas related to morals, politics and science. First he talks of the prehistoric time ideas. He talks of the time when men lived in caves and gradually he invented. So the first thing that came to the benefit of mankind was invention of language. The invention of language, it is crucial to human development. The exact stage during which language developed is not known. However, without language, it would be impossible for any generation to develop. Language has helped humanity in many ways. Strong communication is only possible through language. It is through language that people transmit information, gain knowledge, and express their feelings and emotions. It is also cultural identity for many nations. We can well imagine what we would have been if there had been no language. Another important thing was finding out how to fire, how to make fire, produce fire. So he rubbed two pieces of stone, he lit up fire, and this was amongst the best human discoveries. Though fire it can be used as weapon, yet it is helpful if it is used for positive purposes. It is source of warmth and comfort. We use it for cooking and many types of machines, they are dependent on fire. So in one way or the other, the idea of fire and its uses have helped mankind and we are still taking the benefits from it. Then he talks about the taming of domestic animals. Now we know that man is physically weaker to animals. Animals harmed people, and the only way to survive along with animals was to domesticate them. However, animals have been exploited far beyond the limits, but still it was a useful idea to tame them. Along with domestication of animals, the human need for green vegetables leads to the invention of agriculture, though it was not very easy task. Many agriculture inventions have helped the people in producing crops and they have to work less gradually as they make progress towards this field. The last but not the least is the development of the art of writing. Firstly, we use pictures and signs to convey a message. Then we moved on to the alphabet. So writing was the first way of distant communication. Idea of writing helped people in communication, learning and gaining knowledge. It has also helped the people to store information. So if we are reading the ancient literature, the famous works of Greek literature, even today, it is only possible that we discovered how to write. Now, moving on to the next category, he talks of historic time ideas. So, he contemplates the development accomplished by men in historic times. He further splits it into ideas about knowledge and technique and the ideas that are concerned with morals and politics. First, he talks about the great development in the field of mathematics and astronomy. So, we have the great mathematicians, philosophers, and astronomers among the Greeks They acquired knowledge from the civilized nations like Egyptians. Whatever were offered by Egyptians, it was immediately assimilated by the Greeks. Now, the Greeks they used mathematics not in the way it is used nowadays. They used it for pleasure and luxury and not for commercial purposes and business. The Greeks they also made huge progress in astronomy, but there was no practical application of astronomy until it became associated with astrology. We have the famous names Archimedes and Aristarchus of Samos, who were one of the greatest mathematicians and astronomers of the antiquity. The Greeks they developed the custom of communicating natural laws in mathematical terms. The Egyptians do work on the same line, which might explain and help us to understand the mystery of pyramids. Then he talks of the scientist who gave valuable discoveries and inventions during the 17th centuries. So we have Galileo, Descartes, Newton, and Leibniz. These are the prominent names responsible for development. Now, all the modern scientific discoveries, with the exception of an atomic bomb, they are based on old classical principles which were given by Galileo and Newton. We know the famous laws given by Newton. The undercurrents of Galileo and Newton they rest upon two new principles and a new technique. One of the principles is the law of inertia, which states that everybody continues to be in state of rest or in motion unless an external force is applied on it. Now, the science of the 17th century made it clear that if we wish to understand the universe, we should deal with nature without any bias. So, man made considerable progress in the field of science. And then comes the faith shaking theory of Darwin in 1857, the theory of evolution, which was given by him in his book titled The Origin of Species. Now, this puts a real blow on the face of severe conventional religious belief about the evolution of mankind. Instead of being born as Adam and Eve and being sent from heaven, we believed to be we believed to be have evoluted from the apes. Now, Russell says that science proves the soul to be useless. So he is not sure whether a person has a soul or not. However, if it exists, it has no role. So this was really a faith-shaking theory given by Darwin, and the people they lost faith in God. There were doubts, there was chaos. So it has been depicted in literature as well, the Victorian period. Moving on to the next category, the second category of historical ideas, he talks of moral and political ideas. He says that progress in science and technology possibly will merely upsurge the extent of the calamity that an exploitation of ability can bring about. For example, the clash between Muslims and the Jews for the control of Palestine due to political bigotry can cause world war, and by the use of an atomic weapon, they can destroy the whole world. Now, Russell gives a sound and justified warning to the mankind. As far as knowledge and technology is concerned, humans have developed a lot. However, when we speak of morality, particularly political morality, no such developments are made. The humans are divided into varied groups and communities, and every community thinks itself more vital as compared to others. The ideas of nationalism were not that widespread and strong as it is now, and it narrows the mentality of man. The realm of the world proposes the vision of a dynasty alienated against itself. An objective of the world government is by way of inaccessible from the thoughts of individuals as the far planets in the solar system. The mankind must dedicate some concerns towards moral and political development if it has to survive. So Russell says that knowledge and technology is no doubt beneficial, but they needs to be supplemented with moral and political development as well. So first of all, he talks of the idea of brotherhood, comradeship of man. Now, amongst the philosophies that have benefited men in the moral domain is the idea of comradeship of humans. This idea owed its major power to a certain political progress. This idea it was given by the Stoics. It was reinforced by Buddhism and Christianity consequently. Christianity played a huge role in lessening the miseries of the slaves. They established hospitals and charity and schools on a broad scale. Still, many Christians they were unsuccessful to develop up to the principles that were promoted by their conviction. Now, the idea of brotherhood among humans is among the prominent ideas that have benefited the moral development of mankind. However, to some people, this idea still doesn't hold up. This is because of the wide diversity among people and it has resulted in different nations. We approve Russell's concept of the brotherhood. It has helped a lot in development of mankind. Yet it is not capable of preventing world wars and consequently the world has witnessed two world wars. Then he talks of the idea of democracy and liberty. Now, the concepts of equality, fraternity, and liberty have helped mankind to a large extent. The roots of all these concepts can be seen in religion. Religious toleration provides a platform for individual liberty to enter into practical politics. John Locke is considered one of the supreme supporters of liberty. He tried his best to settle the individual liberty with constitutional control. Law and government are other extraordinary concepts in the politics that have helped mankind. The government of the two is more important. The government can be well defined by means of the combined force of a public. It is a force which enables the control of citizens and to struggle against the pressure from overseas states in order to maintain peace in a state of war or when there is a danger of war. The government seems to have greater control over private citizens. At the charge of citizens, governments intensify their power. In early times, the kings misused their political power, but nowadays there is a check on government which doesn't allow them to misuse their power. Now, this is achieved through democracy. In democracy, government is run on the desire of people. We know it is the government of the people, for the people, by the people. In addition to, in democratic states, the constitution allows freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of movement. A democratic state distinguishes from a police state where individuals are controlled by governments and there is no freedom. Then he moves on to the role of government. Now, Russell has progressive views about government. The approach that he adopted to discuss government is quite pragmatic. Those who are hard-edged socialists, they will never agree with Russell's ideas of liberty and democracy. Russell says democracy offers the freedom that is very essential for the welfare and bliss of mankind. While on the other hand, a totalitarian system of government takes all over into their hands and treat the people as their subjects. No country can develop morally and on scientific grounds in such a system. Then finally he gives some recommendations. He proposes the idea of one single government for the whole world. To him, the upcoming time for mankind would be gloomy if the idea of single government is not put into practice. Nowadays, world faces unprecedented problems and humans are left with only two substitutes. One is that man should go back to ancient times as a consequence of obliteration of civilization, and the second is they should agree upon establishing a single international government. No doubt, the second option seems to be more viable. He says that a new period of development and progress of mankind will begin in case an international government is formed. He takes the examples of United States and Soviet Union and he says that these are considered to be truly independent states. A big step for the welfare of mankind on the mutual agreement to convert two independent states to one should be taken for establishing peace in the world. But then Russell he questions his own statement. Is it really possible? He says the idea seems to be wholly impractical, though it is beneficial, because the world is divided into more than 150 states, and each state have their own identity. The unity and agreement on a large scale of international government are questionable and very hard to achieve. Even if we only consider the two independent states he talks as mentioned above, would they really agree to form one international government? So then Russell finally concludes by saying the world in coming 20 to 30 years will either abolish itself or will establish by establishing an international government. Now neither of his prediction comes true, though we have seen the United Nations organization being organized, a kind of organization that is not restricted to one country, it is meant for all the nations. But the idea of international government is still far, we can say, not achievable. But peace still prevails in the world, and in the future, there would be no need of establishing world government.